One time I was going shopping with the family, grocery shopping, and I'm pushing the trolley. My sister's in the trolley. You know that nice little, baby basket where the kids can just put their legs through. And my sister's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I'm not sure. I don't know how children's ages work. But anyways, so she's in the trolley and I'm pushing it and she's looking at me, very thoughtful, very ponderous. That's the look that she has. And she's like, and I ask her, are you, everything okay? She's like, you should be called the little brother because you are smaller than the other brothers. And I was like, thank you. It's nice to have you around. And so yeah. Let's start the show. Welcome everybody. Welcome. It is the what day is it today? It's the 25th of March 2024. And last year was 2023, 2023, and now it's 2024. Anyways, and I just want to say thank you again. I'm going to do this in every episode. Thank you so much for your support, for your viewing, for watching and enjoying the show. Please continue to do so, and I thank you so much for that. And please, if you haven't already, just hit that subscribe button. It really helps me. It helps the show to continue to progress and grow. It informs me of so many little things that I can do and try to figure out to make the show better. And yeah, obviously there's big goals for the show, very big goals for the show, long-term goals, I would say. And I don't think I'll never get tired of doing this. Like I look forward to it every week. Like on a Sunday especially, like yesterday I was like, I can't wait to do this, because I really enjoy it. It's actually quite there's a lot about it as an experience that appeals to me. It's almost therapeutic. It's a chance for me to be introspective and retrospective and whatever spective it is to be looking forward, and I can just engage with my thoughts, wrestle with my ideas and share it with you, and hopefully it's in words. Sometimes I wonder, do our brains, is it like a malfunction when you get your words mixed up, Because even especially as an adult, you've been speaking your whole life. You've been speaking for most of your life. And there's just times where your words go, You're like, what's going on? Is this a brain malfunction or something? But anyways, what was I saying? You see, we're back to this now where I digress and then I can't find my way back. What was I talking about? I genuinely don't know what I was talking about. The show? Subscribing? You've done that? Let's move on. Anyway, so hopefully it'll come back to me, but I'm really just, oh yes, I think I was talking about, I actually have no idea. Okay, but anyway, so I'm really happy about, this is what I was talking about. Yeah, the show, I've just really been enjoying it, and it's something I look forward to. That's what I said already, and I was, I'm just gonna move on because I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on sometimes, and that's just what it's like to be in my head, and hopefully you're just along for the ride, and I appreciate that, and it's really enjoyable. If you think about it, you can't really look at it as a one-sided conversation, because whatever I'm saying, you're listening to it, so that's already something that's happening on two sides, and then your feedback, whether it's on the hotline or through the comments or just liking the video, your input, that's your feedback. So it's almost like the conversation that we're having, So when a particular episode doesn't do as well as the others, it tells me, okay, maybe these certain topics were not interesting, but also I'm not one to cater to the audience. I'm not one to do that. This is the original idea of the show, is just to do what I want to do. The last thing I want to do is try and satisfy an audience, and I think I've spoken about this before, where music artists they start out really strong. The first album or the first single they drop, maybe wins a Grammy, and then it's just a big letdown after that. Every other work that they've dropped, because they seem to have figured out a formula. Oh, this is why people like this, but they're so wrong. People like it because it is you. People enjoy an artist's work because that work represents the artist. Whether it's a painter or a sculptor or an architect or a musician, a songwriter, composer, comedian, and comedy is such a, I really, it's probably one of my favorite art forms. It goes music, comedy. Yeah, that's it. But there's more, obviously. Like I do enjoy fine art, especially paintings. Not the whole impressionist, abstract forms of art, but really, I'm really more fascinated with how people are able to depict something in a very realistic way. Like if you look at the Renaissance, painters, and even further than that, the Baroque and the Romantic and the all of those artistic movements, changes in the way that society was and how to express themselves. Those always fascinate me. The just how people, because it's that person's perspective, right? And it's interesting to look at someone's perspective by not hearing them talk about it, by them just showing you, like, this is how I see things. And that's beautiful. Sometimes you can just look at a work of art. I don't know if you've ever been to like an art gallery or art museum, but if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's quiet. You have the chance to really take it all in when you look at an artist's work, and artists are very mysterious people. They're not going to tell you what the idea was. They want you to figure it out, and that's what I find beautiful. It wouldn't be art if the artist is forcing you to think a certain way. That would be propaganda, and we know why we don't like propaganda, because it is anti-free thinking. It is anti-free speech, anti-free expression. That's why propaganda has always been painted in a negative light. When you look at history, the use of propaganda was simply to get the masses to think a certain way, instead of allowing the masses to make their own decisions. And it still happens today. It's still when governments manipulate the news, the SABC is not they say they're independent and impartial, but I don't know. That's the South African Broadcasting Corporation, where it's been proven that there's been so many fingers of the ruling party of this country has, they've had the influence over that corporation, and it's so therefore they lose their credibility, especially with me. But it doesn't matter to me. They still manage to take advantage of the masses, all the eyeballs on them, and then even ones that aren't, that don't have any political or governmental affiliation, they're still not trustworthy in my eyes, simply because they take advantage of advertising. So the more people that they can get to watch the news through sensationalism, through not really giving the full story, because the full story would be boring, only giving the interesting parts, and then causes outrage, and that outrage is profitable in the form of advertising. So yeah, but what was I? Whew. today's gonna be a weird one. Because I don't know, I'm struggling to keep track of my thoughts, you know? But that's the freedom of thinking, man. Oh, I was saying this. Propaganda. Before propaganda, art, artistic expression. That's the awesome thing about it, you know? Art loses its profundity, it loses its value if it caters to whoever is looking at it. So even for me, I'm not gonna cater to my audience. As weird as that sounds, it sounds counterintuitive, but I don't think it is. I think that you've come to see me and what I have to say and what I think. So yeah, I'm not gonna try and satisfy anybody's, desires or anything like that. But anyways, I have a big announcement. Big announcement. We are finally on Spotify. So I'll put the link in the description. Just go click there. Then you don't have to sit and watch the video the whole time. You can, drive in your car and listen to the episode, and you can, be busy with the dishes and, be cooking and stuff. And then I'm just there in your ears busy saying, hello, how are you today? Nah, I wouldn't do that, but you get the idea. So instead of having to watch it, you're also able to now just listen. So I guess welcome to the listeners as well, huh? Not just the viewers, but the listeners as well. So just follow that link in the description. I'll put it there. And if you want to search it on Spotify, I hope it's searchable. I think it is. And you just have to search all over the show. And then you'll find it there. All the episodes are on there now. And once this episode is available on YouTube, like as you're watching this, it will be made available on Spotify as well. So very excited about that. And I know for me, I like listening to podcasts. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, and it's probably part of the reason why I decided to do my own show. And there's so many different kinds, but that's like the time where I'm cleaning or doing the dishes or making food or even just exercising or on the way somewhere, taking a nice walk, just have a podcast in your ears. And I specifically enjoy comedians that are having conversations with each other, or there's different formats of these things. Even like there's this podcast called Kill Tony, and what they do is Tony Hinchcliffe, who's a comedian, and Brian Redban, they created this show where they can sit at a table on stage, like a panel of judges. They're not really judging, and then they give everyone who comes there has a chance to put their name in a bucket. And once they pull your name, you're able to deliver a minute of stand-up comedy uninterrupted, and it's a really simple format, but it's brilliant because it gives everybody a chance to be able to just, say whatever jokes you've prepared. So I really love that idea, and it's something that I really love to try. Maybe I can share one of the funnier stories that I've shared on this show. But that's just what I've been listening to quite a lot, actually. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, go check it out. My favorite thing is when they roast each other. I'm not a very combative person. I don't necessarily seek out conflict or confrontational situations, but I do enjoy it when it happens. I do when those videos where those videos where people are like at McDonald's, and it's normally a lady. Sometimes not only a lady, but it's normally a lady, and she's having a total meltdown, and you can see in the video that this lady's issue that she's saying is the issue is not actually the issue. She may be just having a bad day or whatever, but it's like she's like, why did you put onions on the it's like insane, man. Why would you those people, you place the order, those people are just doing their job, man. And it's maybe the chefs in the back that made a mistake, and I mean, it's okay to make mistakes. Jeez, we're human beings, you don't have to explode on that. But like I said, I really think what's truly going on is just that person is already maybe a stressed out person, and one thing I've learned, in my many years of life, not many years, my many years of life, is that people are angry, but they're hardly ever angry about what they say they're angry about. There's always something deeper. There's always an underlying issue, because when people do freak out or have a meltdown, they're actually just going on about something else. What they're going on about doesn't seem to justify the level of anger that is being experienced. So it's quite funny. If you really think about it, like, why is this person angry actually? Because most of the time it isn't what they say it is, or it isn't what the problem they're dealing with now is not actually the problem. And I think if we can all try and do that, you give that person the space to eventually come down and to hopefully apologize. I used to feel like apologies are not necessary, especially in receiving an apology. Like, I would never really demand that or expect that. But I've also kind of grown in that sense, because an apology isn't about satisfying somebody's desire to hear an apology. It's actually that when you receive a truly sincere apology, and that is what an apology is. If it's just like, okay, I'm sorry, that's not an apology. It's like, yeah, fine, I'm sorry. Like, that's how we apologize nowadays. But I think a sincere apology involves, or rather a true apology involves sincerity, honesty, and the commitment to never crossing that line again, to never overstepping, to never committing that act, whatever it may be, again, and that will open the door to forgiveness. And that's what we want, because I believe forgiveness is a very big act of love. Even looking at it from a spiritual sense, in the Bible also they talk about, your sins are, it's as if you're wearing a white garment, an item of clothing, and sin, or in this case, just anything that you've done, you've transgressed, you've committed an act against somebody, you've said something mean or whatever, anything that requires forgiving is a stain on your clothing. It's a stain. And the minute you forgive, that stain disappears. So it's not actually the sins that you have committed that's a stain on your clothes. It's the sin that has been committed against you that you won't forgive. That's the stain on your clothing. And once you can let go, that stain disappears, and then you can be fresh and clean. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I mean, I've seen incredible stories of forgiveness where maybe an act of murder took place, like you killed my child, like I saw a video. This lady was in court and her son had been murdered. It's a murder case of her son, her only son. And they caught the guy that committed the murder. He's there. He's there in the courtroom, And she said the following words. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but she said something like, "I love you. I forgive you." And at first I couldn't understand it. I was like, how could you say I love you to the person who took the life of your only child? But then when you look at it further and you realize that what people do against you is actually the weight on your shoulders. And the more you hold on to it, the heavier that burden becomes. And I think that true freedom, to be free from that, because that's the bondage, really. It's sometimes you can't forgive yourself for something you've done, and that's the same sentiment. But to forgive somebody else for what they've done to you, that is love. That is love, because you're also not holding that person captive anymore. And I think that's beautiful. I don't even know how we got to this conversation, or this part of the conversation, but that's the nature of conversation. We just keep it flowing. We just keep it going. Anyways, so so I wanted to share the hotline question. So the previous hotline question, I guess there weren't any responses about that. There was someone who posted in the comments, and that was cool. But I really want to try and have this hotline become a real part of the show. I really would like that to happen. Obviously, the show is evolving and growing and moving, and I want to have parts of the show where we can actually hear the voices of the listener. That's you. And this is your chance, whatever you've been wondering, whatever you think, whatever you feel, a question you have, or just an answer to one of my questions. And so here's my question for today's episode. What's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self? Or rather, what's one piece of advice that you wish you could give to your younger self? And I like to, kind of just, these are part of the stuff that's on my mind, And for me, I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. And I do believe that over the years that answer has changed. I've always been fascinated with time travel, and there's a lot of things that... One time I even thought, okay, if I go back in time, I'm going to go back in time to my younger self and just punch him in the stomach, and just say, stop being an idiot, and then go, And I'm sure we all feel that way sometimes. Sometimes maybe this is true for everybody. There has been a time in your life, and if it hasn't happened yet, it probably will, where you have made a catastrophic error in judgment, where you have made a truly bad decision, one that has implications way, way down the line, And I think maybe that's one of the things that I would actually do is go to my younger self and say, listen, with every decision, give it some serious thought, not just about the present, but about the future as well. I think that's some advice that I would give to myself, is just be more thoughtful, because a lot of the times you make decisions that just seem to satisfy a current emotion or a current issue without any consideration of the future implications of that decision, and that's something that I think about a lot, I mean, a lot of the times I do believe that 80% of our decisions in life are the reason why our lives are the way they are. Or rather, I would say 80% of the issues we experience in our life, the problems, the struggles, just come from our poor decisions. I truly believe that. There's a lot of decisions that we make consciously. We know this is a poor decision. This is a bad decision. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't, make this choice. But then you do, simply to satisfy something in the present. And I think that's what I would tell my younger self as well. But I also wouldn't have learned that. So there's the paradox, right? I wouldn't have learned what I learned if I hadn't made the mistakes I made. So I'm actually grateful for my mistakes. Jeez. So that's a complicated one. Okay, now I changed my answer. We're really all over the show today. And that's for sure. But I changed my answer. I think what I would tell myself, my younger self, is don't be afraid to make the mistakes. Because I think that in itself is a mistake. But still be conscious about your decisions 100%. And there's some decisions you make, you might have thought, okay, this is definitely the correct decision. You've taken time to decide and you do it, and then maybe it doesn't pan out the way you think it does. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it works out better than you expected, and maybe that's also not a great thing to happen. Maybe you get exactly what you want, and then you realize, wow, I didn't actually want this. I didn't think that this is what I wanted. So yeah, it's interesting, and life, I guess life just teaches us these things. But I think that's what I would tell myself. I would tell myself, don't be afraid to make mistakes, but be very thoughtful about your decisions. Be very mindful of them, you know. So, yeah, and just to think further ahead, I think. You know, I don't want to blame ADHD on this, but part of having ADHD means that you make a lot of impulsive decisions, and that's why I'm so focused on the decision thing, because often you make a decision that simply satisfies a very temporary flash of emotion, or a quick thought that that's just what being what's the word, I used the word just now and I forgot it, you know um, impulsive, just to satisfy an impulsive, just make impulsive decisions, and that can never bode well, right? If you think about it, if you look down your own history, the impulsive decisions you've made has not been great. I mean, sometimes it is, but I really don't think that happens often. But yeah, so there's the hotline question. The hotline is 072-012-1804, and the question is, what is one piece of advice that you wish you could give to your younger self? And please answer the question any way you want to, but please send it as a voice note or a message on the hotline. Send it via WhatsApp. Yeah, and then tell me what that would be, or you could share anything else with me, like share it on that same line. Tell me what you think, tell me what you've been thinking about, tell me something that you think about the show, or whatever, just an input you have, or something you'd like to add on a thought that I've shared with you. I think that would be really cool. I think it's definitely something I want to have as part of the show, so that's just part of the goals there. So if you've made it so far, and most people don't, most people don't, but it has been getting better. There have been more people reaching this stage of the show, for example, so that's really cool. But yeah, let me think now. What's been going on with my life? I also want to always share like whatever's going on in my life. Nothing much, really, if I think about it. Nothing really much has been going on, just in my personal life, really. Everything's been pretty stable, and I'm actually thankful for that, Sometimes boring is good, You don't want the drama all the time. You don't want something to take place that, you have to now deal with all the time, It can be taxing on your energy, and you want to commit your energy to something good, something positive. You don't want to have to be constantly putting out fires, or sorting out this, or doing damage control. You don't want to be in that position. That's crisis. You don't want to be in crisis mode all the time. So I think when things are quote unquote boring, it just means that things are running smoothly, and that's an important thing that can happen, I think. So yeah, more of that, I guess, But yeah. So last week, maybe the week before, I was obviously not feeling well. I'm doing much better now. I think that with the season changes, there's still gonna be an effect, with my nose especially, and I'm sure you are probably experiencing the same thing. And that's just humanness. That's just being a human being, and it's still a beautiful thing to be human. But yeah, but as a result of that, I haven't had good sleep for some reason. And I think it's related to not exercising. Because I've noticed the times when I exercise, I actually feel really good mentally, emotionally. And I also sleep much easier at night. But when you're sick, you can't exercise. That's the problem. You can, but I don't know enough about the human body to know what I can do and what I can't do. I don't want to do something while I'm sick that makes things worse, and I don't want to do something while I'm sick that causes a bigger problem. Because you always hear about things like, oh no, if you're sick, you shouldn't do any cardio because you're gonna have a heart attack or something. I'm like, heart attack? Jeez. I don't believe my heart is that weak. I'm a young man and I'm healthy. So even when you're, feeling a bit under the weather, you're strong and fit. So I don't know about all that, but we don't know what we don't know. And I guess I haven't done the research enough to know what all that's about. But yeah, so I haven't been exercising really, and it's affected my sleep, definitely. So I did a little bit of research about sleep, and it's actually quite interesting because apparently most people have really bad sleeping habits. One thing I've seen is that we're actually supposed to sleep, or rather wake up, on a regular basis, meaning, and by regular I just mean at the same time every day, or close to the same time every day. Regardless of how little or how much sleep you get, you should be waking up the same time every day. And what that does is it makes sure that your circadian rhythm, your circadian rhythm, the waking and sleeping cycle of your body, that keeps a lot of other things regular, including your stress levels, including your melanin levels, your serotonin levels, your dopamine levels, your cortisol levels. There's so much that's going on, especially in your brain, certain hormones that are released. It keeps that fairly regular. So even if you're a night owl, you need to choose a time to wake up every single day, and it has to be a time that's practical every single day. So, for example, you shouldn't be the person that, you wake up 5 o'clock every morning for work, but then on the weekends you sleep late. It's not good for you. No wonder we're so sensitive to environmental changes when it comes to your mental health. You get something like seasonal affective disorder, which is basically just because there's less sunlight. All of us have there's an effect on our mental state. It's not really a depression, but it feels almost like it. You feel more anxious, you feel more down at times. And to combat this, for me, I'm trying to make sure exercise every day and wake up the same time every day. Even if you're just gonna wake up and still be in bed, that's fine. This is now all according to the research that I've done. The other thing is, when you wake up, get some sunlight. Get some sunlight, especially in your eyes, because that produces melanin or melatonin. How confusing. I don't know the difference between those two. Come, let's see. Let's do a little the Google. I had a teacher in grade 8, and I think he was from Ghana or Zambia or something, and we'd make fun of him for his accent, which was actually pretty wrong. But we did it because we're kids, and he would say, the Google, you must go on the Google, not go do a Google search. And I don't know, we just found that funny. It's not funny now, actually, unless you're busy laughing to the Google. But anyways, what is I searching again? Oh, let's see, melanin versus melatonin. No, melanin is a pigment responsible for skin tone. Melatonin is a hormone that regulates your waking and sleeping cycle. Okay, there we go. Thank you. clevelandclinic.org. They have given us that distinction. So melatonin. So serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, and cortisol. Those are the hormones in our body that regulates a lot of our emotions. And by emotions, I mean mental state. Because your mind and your emotions, it's all the same thing, really. So anyways, when you get some sunlight, especially getting sunlight in your eyes. So I'm not saying look directly into the sun, but just be outside, man. Just experience that sunlight. And when you do that, you get melatonin, and that melatonin, higher levels of melatonin, regulates your waking and sleeping cycle. So if you're someone that already has a messed up sleeping cycle, meaning when you don't have anything urgent or pressing, you wake up at like 9 or 10 o'clock, that's obviously you're seriously lacking in melatonin. And if you want to fix that, do this. And this is what I do normally when I get to that point of where I'm waking up a bit later. For me, waking up late is like 7. I'm trying to be by 6. That's my current goal for 2024, is just wake up at 6 o'clock on a regular basis. At times you need to wake up a bit earlier, 5 o'clock, and I think that's okay. But here's what I think you should do, because if the later you sleep, the later you're gonna fall asleep, or the later you wake up, the later you're gonna fall asleep eventually. So I think, like, what's kind of worked for me is, okay, you've woken up at 9 o'clock, now you sleep, you go to bed, and it's super late, you 11, 12, you're going there. Fine, you sleep, but then you wake up at 6. You wake up at whatever goal time you need to wake up. Now you are gonna be super tired that day. So sacrifice that day. It's gonna mean that you're gonna be tired. Whatever needs to happen that day, you do it. But it's gonna be rough, because it sucks to be tired. Oh my goodness. And then you're gonna be tired, which means you're gonna sleep earlier. So now you also have your goal bedtime. So then you're there, you're in bed, you sleep. Because you're super tired, obviously you've had very little sleep the night before. Now you sleep. Now, the time that you sleep and the time that you wake up the next morning, which should be, let's say, for example, 6 o'clock, if that's the time that you choose, you're going to feel so much better. And then now you establish a proper rhythm. Wake up that time, go outside, experience some sunlight, come back, exercise, have breakfast. And they also talk about this when it comes to regulating, especially your serotonin levels. Not serotonin, cortisol levels, because cortisol is the stress hormone, but it's also the hormone responsible for waking you up in the morning. So normally to settle your cortisol levels, you wake up, you do your thing, but then eat something high in protein and high in fat, something like a peanut butter sandwich, or a fried egg, or whatever it is that you eat, because if you do that, then it settles your cortisol levels. And you'll notice how stressed out you are if you delay breakfast. If you are someone who delays breakfast, then you're probably also a high stress individual. So if you want to fix that, try it. I don't know. That's just based on the research that I've done. It's fascinating. And obviously we're all different. It's not all going to work for everybody. But if you've run out of answers or solutions and you want to have a better life, and it's amazing to me how much of an impact your sleep has on your quality of life, just your waking life, is massive. So if you're looking for a place to start, to get yourself right, that's where I think you should start. That's where I'm starting, So like this past week or last week, I wasn't really feeling great. The week before, also not feeling great as a result of poor sleeping habits and not exercising and not spending time in the outdoors. But now that I'm doing that, I actually feel way, way better, So, I believe that's a good start to go to. Anyways, so I've just been trying to sort out my sleep. That's what's been going on in my life, kind of my primary focus really, in terms of getting myself back to optimal performing levels, just getting into sleep. What else has been going on in my life? I guess we're gearing up for a concert. Like at church, we do sort of fundraisers, and it's like a whole area of, Free State, Northern Cape area, just parts of those two areas. We come together, we deliver a musical performance, a whole set of musical performances, and people buy tickets, and it's a fundraiser. It's just a nice concert that we give. And so this concert is different for me personally, because it's the first time that I will actually be conducting the choir and orchestra for a lot more of the pieces than what I've previously done. I have previously been a conductor in concerts before, but it's never been on the scale of this many pieces. It's always been like 2 or 3 items that I get a chance to do that. So I'm quite excited about that, and it's stressful, but it's stressful in a good way, I would say. It's really more stimulating than it is stressful. And for all my ADHDers out there, You know what I mean when I talk about the desire for stimulation. Like, you want your brain to be engaged, because otherwise it just splits into 10,000 different thoughts every second, and it gets distracting and overwhelming, ironically enough. So yeah, that's also what's been going on, and I don't know, for me there's a lot of fulfillment that I experience with certain things in life. When you're involved in charity, for example, that's a very, very fulfilling thing. When you're spending time with your family, it's very fulfilling. When you are able to, perform, at your job, you're able to really put in meaningful work, beginning to end of your day, you are working. That's a really fulfilling feeling for me. I don't know how you feel about that. You may be like, ugh, I hate my job. But even if you hate your job, you can still, to make something of it. It doesn't have to be as bad as what it is. It's always a mental thing. It's always an attitude thing. It's the way you choose to see it. But anyways, I don't wanna get too far off topic here. I want to find my way back. But it's really fulfilling for me to be almost tangibly involved in music, because music's ultimate form of expression is performance. It's musical performance. That's why millions of people attend concerts every year. You want to see it. You want to see people performing. You want to see a singer. You want to see a musician perform. You want that. You want to experience that. So it's profound. But it's even more profound to be involved in the performance yourself. Oh my goodness. And if you haven't done that before, try it. Try it. It's so engaging. It's so fulfilling, because what you're doing is you are involved in a process of performance that for that time enriches the lives of whoever's watching, whoever's listening. You are adding something of value to their lives, something bigger than what it is, and that's what music is. I can't think of a single person in this world that's like, oh no, I don't like music. like you don't like music? Like, that's crazy. I would have endless questions for such a person, but I really don't think such a person exists. You probably must be severely depressed if you don't have a taste for music, because everybody loves music, man. How can you not? But anyway, so to be involved like that, it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. Like, to be in the process of developing your skill and the skill of those you work with by the vehicle of a piece of music that at the beginning was difficult to do, but by the end of the practicing process, by the time you get to the concert, you're able to do it. And it's like, it's a journey. It's a real journey. And when you're done with that, you are better for it. Not just as a musician, but as a person, because you've connected with so many people on a deeply spiritual level. And that's what music is about, man. It's about connecting people in a deep way. So yeah, that's for me what's going on. But what else is going on in life? I think that's all I can really share with you nowadays, or rather for this past week. I think there'll be more to share next week, that's for sure. But okay, we move on. Let's see what else have I. I've been meaning to do this. So last week I spoke a lot about books, and I want to sort of do a book segment every week where I discuss one book in particular, and I've got dozens of books here that I have read and have never actually managed to speak to anybody about. So yeah, if you want to join the book club, let's do it, But the first book, I want to just talk about all these books, because each of the books I've read have kind of been very impactful to me, And this particular book was a gift. All right, let's have a look here. 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Chaos. And it is what? Okay, yeah, by Jordan B. Peterson. He's a professor of psychology, used to be. I'm not sure if he still is, but professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. And this book is he wrote this for the public, it's a real thing. And what happened was he wrote there was people there's a website called Quora.com where you get to post a question and experts in that field get to actually answer the question, right? So I think somebody asked the question that what are the most important rules to have or most important things to know about life, right? Or most important rules to follow about life. And he wrote a list of 42 rules, and it got like tons of engagement. Tens of thousands of people upvoted it and commented, So for him it was like, wow, like how can I wasn't even aware this many people knew of this website, And then he decided to sort of write an essay on each of those, but it became so much to write about, so he chose like 12 of them, right? And that is where this book came from. So I just want to share like some of the rules, and I'll just like share with you my impression of each of the rules regarding like just what some of the content, because my goal of sharing sharing the idea of this book with you is that you might benefit from it if you go and read this book, or listen to the audiobook. You don't have to read anymore, goodness, which is for me, I'm not a fan of that idea, but if you don't like reading or if you don't have the time to read, like while you're exercising or doing the dishes, you can listen to the audiobook or, But anyway, so let's see, rule number 1 says stand up straight with your shoulders back. And that was a very interesting thing for me, because actually let me just do an overview first of the book. So it's an antidote to chaos. 12 rules for life, an antidote to chaos. And the idea of these rules is also that without structure in your life, without any guiding principles, you are going to find yourself in chaos. You're not going to know, what do I do in this situation? You're not going to know how to approach things when you need something, or how you're going to get to whatever you want or wherever you want to be. You're not going to know if you don't have any structure. If you look at companies that don't exist anymore, it's probably because they didn't have any structure. If you look at your own life and look at certain parts of your life that feel very chaotic, that feel very stressful, it's possible that there is not a structure. So what this book provides is a framework almost of structure that you can choose to implement in your life. And if you look at the opposite of chaos, it's order. But it's not saying that to create order in your life. It's not about that, because too much order is bad. Too much chaos is bad. And this is where the yin and yang symbol comes in, where it's black and white, two sides. The one side is black, the other side is white. But inside the black side, there is a white circle. And inside the white side, there is a black circle. And what that means is that there is a little bit of chaos in every part of order, and in every part of chaos there's a little bit of order, and to have both of those means balance, and that's what the Taoists believed, But anyways, so this book kind of has a lot of Taoist underpinnings, especially approaching the idea of order and chaos. So anyway, we live in a chaotic world sometimes, and this is just an attempt to provide an antidote. So the first one is stand up straight with your shoulders back. That's rule number 1. And it's an interesting study into posture and the cumulative effects of that. So if you are someone who can correct your posture, for example, and it's not just about posture. It's it's your physical posture, yes, but it's also a shift in your mental position, or your mental posture, let's say. Firstly, physically, it's like, if I'm someone who can stand up straight with my shoulders back, it's a show of confidence. It means that I am someone who can tackle this problem. I am someone who can face the world standing straight. I'm not cowering, I'm not slouching, I'm not hiding. And you know what happens? I think it's dopamine. When you stand up straight, there's dopamine that's released in your brain. And that's the hormone that's responsible for confidence and courage. So Think about that a moment, all right? And scientists have also discovered that there's a cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect just basically means that the effect and the cause of something can be interchangeable. For example, when you experience something that gives you confidence, like winning a competition, you literally stand tall without knowing it. Just unconsciously, your posture changes to a winner's posture, right? But then likewise, in the reverse, if you just have that winner's posture, you increase the dopamine in your brain. It's incredible. It's incredible that it simply means that if you're able to do that, you're already taking a big step forward into the world. But also mentally, it becomes this thing of, you know what, the world is going to throw things at me anyways. I might as well face it bravely. And don't you want to be that person? Don't you want to be that person? So that's what that part of that means, and that's a good place to start. Stand up straight with your shoulders back, because it also means that there's going to be things on your path, responsibilities that you will have to take. So if you take them willingly, you're actually going to start living a more meaningful life. And then maybe that chaos in your life will be subdued a little bit. Alright. And then the second one, sorry, I've only got one hand for this. The second one is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Now that is also quite a profound thought to me. Treat yourself as if you are responsible. Let me read that again. Sorry. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. And what that means is like it means exactly what it says, right? We are very good at looking after each other in life. Ask someone with a child or a pet, you'll do anything for that child, you'll do anything for that pet. Whatever that pet needs, whatever that child needs, it's obviously two different relationships, of course, but anything for that person. If your child is sick, you're going to make sure that child takes medicine and is looked after until that child is healthy again. Alright? And even your dog, if the vet gave you medicine, you're not going to miss a beat to give that dog medicine. But when you get sick, do you even go to the doctor? Do you take yourself to the doctor? If you do take yourself to the doctor, are you going to make sure you take all your meds all the time? For some, yes, but for most, it isn't, and myself included. So what would happen if you actually treated yourself as if you were someone you were responsible for helping? Like, how much care would you actually provide yourself? Because remember, you cannot be a positive agent in the world if you are not doing well, if you're not okay. So whatever is happening with you, what this book is encouraging is like, how about you take care of yourself? How about you take better care of yourself? How about you give yourself better sleep? Just to get to full circle with sleep. How about you give yourself better sleep? How about you stop making decisions that you know are bad for you? How about that? What's going to happen if you actually manage that? That's my sister. She's making a lot of noise. But anyways, so how about how much better would your life be if you actually started doing that? What if you were to just sit on the edge of your bed and just think a little bit? How many stupid decisions am I making, and how many of these can I just stop making, and how many of these will actually make my life better if I implement those decisions? So that's the idea, is that yes, look after everybody, care and love each other, but what about yourself as well? Treat others the way you want to be treated, but are you treating yourself the way you want to be treated? It even goes down to the things we say to ourselves in our head. Oh, you idiot! Oh, you're so dumb! Or why would you make? Oh, you're so ugly! Oh, you're so you're so fat! You're so it's like, if you speak better to yourself, maybe you'll have better life. So that's the second rule. The third rule: make friends with people who want the best for you. Oh, that is such an important one, And I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. It's just that there are people in this world who are good for you, and there are people in this world that are bad for you. And if you truly want to be responsible about your life, about your personal life, your personal existence, you might have to end up making a bad decision. Or not a bad decision, a tough decision. One in which It's like, this person in my life is constantly bringing negativity. This person in my life is constantly badgering on about this issue and that issue, and without any positive contribution. This person contributes negatively to my welfare or to my mental health or maybe to my emotions. Then it's time to either sort that person out or just cut it off right there. And I think as an adult, I think it doesn't become easier, but you understand the necessity of protecting your own peace and making sure that you don't allow people in your life who don't mean well, And that's taking it a step further, even, because there are people in your life who don't want the best for you. There are people who want the worst for you. And sometimes those are your closest friends, I've even, I like listening to rap music sometimes, and I don't know which rapper it was, but this rapper said that, sometimes your haters are not, or no, it says, that's what it said, your haters are not people who don't know you. People who don't know you, that's normally your fans, right? Your haters are people that actually know who you are, And sometimes you're closer than you think. So, that's also just part of healthy decision making. It's like, choose the type of people you want in your life, and then look at who's in your life and decide, this is the person I want, this is the person I don't want in my life, And I think that's because how much chaos is introduced by simply people who don't want the best for you. And you obviously need to be that person in return. It's about reciprocity. That's what friendship is. So if whatever you expect in friendship, in any relationship really, you should be able to give as well. Otherwise, I don't think you have a right to expect that. I think, that makes sense to me. Anyways, rule number 4. This is one of my favorites. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. So that's about where your attention is focused, right? Is your attention focused on what other people are up to and what you don't have and what they have? Like, how unhappy do you want to make yourself? Don't you want to feel better? Don't you want to be able to look at your life and say, okay, here's where I need to fix it? So that's what it means. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Meaning, look at your past mistakes. Look at your repeating mistakes. And maybe change that. I'm sharing this with you because these are profound thoughts to me. I'm not saying that I'm successful with any of this stuff, but I do attempt. And I think that's what it's all about. It's just try, Rule number 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Ooh, that's a powerful one, actually. Because I think if you allow... Obviously, the rules talk about things a lot deeper than what I'm actually saying. So I'm just giving you the surface story, but there's a lot more depth to it, that the author provides. So, if these things sound interesting to you, I would highly suggest you go read this book. I'm not getting paid even to tell you about this book. Like, it's literally, I'm just sharing this with you, free of charge. Go read this book. It's so interesting. But anyways, rule 5 is, let me read that again, sorry. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. And what that means is just that there are certain behaviors, not just from children, but just from your friends, from your family, certain behaviors that if they do it, you're like, I'm not sure I like this that you're doing, And then you nip it in the bud. You say, don't talk to me like that. For example, or you, especially with your kids, like if because you don't want to allow something to happen that's going to cause resentment to be built up in you. Because who wants to sit with resentment? That's again going back to the clean garment that's dirty. If you let go of that resentment, your garment is clean. But also don't welcome resentment. Because then you just say, here you go, here's my clean white garment, come and dirty it, So it opens... So you're basically shutting the door on resentment altogether. If you recognize, and that just means paying attention, just to recognize when somebody does something that's like, if this goes further, I'm not going to like this person anymore. I'm going to dislike this person. And that's a dangerous place to be because, especially as a parent, if you don't like your kids, man, If you don't like your kids, you are approaching dangerous territory. Because then there's going to come a point where, yes, you love them, but you're not going to go out of your way for them because you don't like them. You want to like your children. Because they're also safer if you like them. If you don't like them, you might be, a bit more negligent. And that's just not as a parent, but as a friend, as a, husband, as a wife, as a brother or a sister, a mother or a father. I already said that. There's so much to it. So as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, don't let it slide. Whatever it is that you don't like, man, don't let it slide, because it's going to build resentment in you, and that's going to ruin the whole thing. And you don't want the whole thing to be ruined simply because you allowed things to happen. So yeah, that's interesting. Anyways, rule number 6: set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Oh man. And this also like sort of echoes the whole idea of compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who you were today, to someone else who is today. And set your house in perfect order just means that you have enough to deal with in your own life. And if you only have a right to point out the errors of other people's ways, to point out whatever's going on in the world that's terrible. You only have that right if your environment is in perfect order. So it's like the idea is also that I can't go on about the dirty house if my bedroom isn't clean. I can't go on about the messes in other people's lives if my personal mess isn't cleaned up. I don't have a right to do that. So yeah, like it's such a cool rule, because it's like, if I have that as a rule, then it means that my first point of attention is going to be inward. I need to fix myself first. I need to make sure that my family is sorted before I criticize other people's families. And you know what's going to happen? Once you can focus on your own life and your own family and your own house, in your own situation and your own story, once you can focus on that, you're not even going to bother looking into the outside world. You're not going to bother criticizing the outside world. And we all know those people. We all know those people who just have the worst things to say about everything outside of themselves. They'll never talk about themselves. They always just talk about, no, I think this. No, I think that. And I think, and it's never good stuff, Why don't you think good things, man? Why are you so unhappy? Maybe that's the opportunity to just looking inside a bit. And I love that rule, because it's about humility even. Because how arrogant can you be to point out the world's issues when your issues aren't sorted? Wow. How hypocritical can you be? Okay, moving on. Rule number 7: pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And expedient just means that you are, the pursuit of the expedient is just whatever gratifies or satisfies. That's what being expedient is, But pursuing what is meaningful is rather just like, what are the things that provide the most meaning in your life, where you get a sense of belonging, a sense of peace and of fulfillment. Those are the worthwhile pursuits. There's so many people who are, to the external viewer, rich, successful, a really good place in life, prosperous, man. But then you hear later that person commits suicide, or that person is severely depressed, or that person is super unhappy. And then you're like, but why? You have all these wonderful things. Like, no. That person is doing those things, but those things are not what makes that person happy. So you really have to examine, what is it that you truly desire? What is it that would truly make life worth living? That is what's meaningful. That's what's meaningful. So many people, and in South Africa, it's a big thing. In where suicide rates are so high. I think South Africa is the second highest, has the second highest rate of suicide in the world. I'm not sure. You can fact check me on that, but I think that's the case. And it's just concerning, because that just means that there's a lack of meaning in your life. I think that's maybe the source of it. If you want to be happy, and I don't mean happy as in like joy. I don't mean joy. I'm talking about content, being content with your life. No matter your circumstances, that is what doing something meaningful means. Do the thing that you don't notice 3 hours passing. That's why I do this. This is one of the things it's meaningful to me to talk to you, because it's like hours can pass. I obviously I'm trying to keep it. My mission has always been to keep it under an hour, and we are already over an hour, which is fine. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Because I'm just sharing with you. But for me, it's meaningful. So what? Now you ask yourself, what is meaningful to you, and don't you want to pursue that more? I like that very much. Okay. The last one, not the last one, sorry, there are 12 rules, and that was rule 7. Rule number 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And the reason why that second part has been tagged on, if you read the book, the author just talks about how it's not actually possible to always tell the truth, because there are times where you don't know what the truth is. You can't verify what the truth is, so it's rather like, at least don't lie. But this chapter is about honesty and the value thereof. Not just honesty as in, the truthful things that you say, or, a lot of people use the truth as a weapon to hurt, to cause pain. And that's not truth. That's biased truth right there, But to tell the truth literally means that you are taking on the responsibility of giving everybody around you something that they're not going to find in many other places. A lot of times we look at, because we're so sensitive nowadays in society, we look at these people as oh, that's just a mean person. But sometimes that person is just someone who is not willing to lie to you simply to spare your feelings. A lot of the times the stuff that you need to hear are not the things that you want to hear, but you need to hear them. So telling the truth just means that you are gonna not allow also. You're not gonna allow things like lies like other people's lies and other deceptions. You're not gonna allow that for you to be involved in those things. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyways, you're not gonna allow the deceit of others to be something that you are participating in. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you are a participant in truth and in honesty, there's nothing you ever need to cover up. There's nothing you ever need to be deceitful about. There's nothing you ever need to lie about. There's nothing you ever need to keep quiet about. So, and I think that's freedom. They say the truth will set you free, but it's so difficult. And that's why it's a rule. It's like, okay, and you're not always going to be confronted with applying all of these rules. All of these rules come along at certain instances, certain situations, certain circumstances that take place where you're like, okay, I need to understand how am I going to approach this. And then you apply the rules. So once you read the book, it's really going to be ingrained in you, but it's going to be a constant challenge. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So, but anyway, so you get to that point where it's better to tell the truth than to lie. And if you choose the truth, then you're just going to say, look, I'm sorry to say this, but so and so. So, as a human being in society, you want to live that way, I mean, if you look at Soviet Russia, for example, nobody could be honest with each other because you weren't sure who's informing the government of you. Because the government would just arrest anybody just based on someone else's word. Like if you didn't like someone, you could just say, "Nah, that person is a free thinker," You're like, okay, we're gonna arrest him, But when you are, and so their whole society was built that way. But if you go to Russia now, and I'm not gonna talk about like all the wars and stuff. That's a different thing. That's political. I'm talking about societal here. If you go to Russia, and people that have visited Russia will tell you this, everybody in Russia is brutally honest because they have lived in a society where lies are the status quo. So now honesty is, and this is as a result of freedom. Now you're reflecting freedom in the form of truth. And isn't that beautiful? I mean, if you look at how South Africa came out of this horribly oppressive time, was through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where people who were guilty of certain crimes had to appear at this commission and tell everyone what they did. And that opened the doorway to peace. That's why it wasn't a bloodbath when apartheid was over. It wasn't a bloodbath. It wasn't, we didn't descend into chaos. Truth kept that at bay. That's the beauty of it. So tell the truth, or at least don't lie. It's for me, I think that's maybe one of the most important rules here. Let's see, rule number 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Okay, well, I'm not talking about me in that case, but just, it's the idea that listening has value, I remember in English class, in high school, there was a poster on the wall that said there's a reason why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I thought that was so clever because obviously there's a biological purpose to that, but if you look at it philosophically, it's like, I should be listening twice as much as I'm talking. And I'm guilty of this. I talk so much. I made a show about talking a lot. And I mean, I've been talking for over an hour by myself. I don't know if there are many people who feel comfortable doing that. But you might feel like, oh man, I'm going insane. I'm talking to myself for an hour. But nah, I'm talking to you and you're listening. So thanks for listening. But yeah, so I think there's so much more you can learn from somebody by listening. If you listen hard enough, they'll actually share with you what they truly have to say. Because everything in the beginning is going to be on the surface. You can't just jump into a conversation, going into the deep stuff, unless you know that person, implicitly. But to just, go deep with everybody, like, whoa, man, don't be wild. But if you listen long enough, people will tell you stuff about them. And that's what makes, I think that there's not a person in this world that is boring. I think that maybe when you think someone is boring, you haven't given that person the chance to actually share what's interesting about them. And that just means you haven't listened long enough. And man, listening is so valuable. I think that what people have to say is more important than what you have to say. I think that's the case, and that's what this rule is saying. So it's so important, Moving on, rule number 10: be precise in your speech. And this is not necessarily about honesty, but it's rather just like mean what you say and say what you mean, Because I think a lot of the times, we are like, there's a lot of the times where, and especially if you look at today's society, the way that people describe things, they're not even using adjectives anymore, They're not even using adjectives to describe things, They're like, oh, that song is so fire. It's so fire. Fire? Dude, fire is not an adjective. Fiery, definitely an adjective, but I'm sure that's not what you meant, And oh man, it just terrifies me, the falling apart of language in general is really sad. But anyways, that's just my personal feelings. But to be precise in your speech is exactly that, And I've said this before, you can become a deadly person if you're someone that's able to carry across your ideas through speech as clearly and as purposefully as possible, And I think the secret to that is just writing things down. Because once you're able to compose your thoughts on paper and really figure them out, because when you write stuff down, you're actually a lot more careful about it. You're not gonna just let any little word pop up and write it out. You literally have intention. So I think to be precise in your speech just means that you have to be able to communicate clearly and effectively whatever it is you want. You know, that's the reason why a lot of people can say one thing in 50,000 words. They can say a whole paragraph just to say one thing, and someone else can say one thing in 3 or 4 words. You know, and they can say the same thing, and it has the same reception. It just takes more time. So, and I think that's something I need to work on as well. It's just to maybe shorten the amount of words, but I don't know. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a show to have now, would there? But I think, being precise in your speech. It also helps for, communicating with the world. You know, how do you tell someone how you feel? It's like, you have to be precise about how you feel. And maybe you need to be precise about how you feel first, so that you can be able to share that clearly and effectively to someone else. And we obviously, all of these rules are about the antidote to chaos. So imagine now the amount of chaos there is when misunderstanding is all that there is. It's impossible. You cannot find clarity. So I think to be precise in your speech also means that you're going to achieve clarity. You're going to achieve precision. Everyone that speaks to you knows exactly what you're about because you say what it is. Everybody knows exactly what you're thinking because you say what it is. Everybody knows exactly what you're saying because you are using your speech precisely. And that just means expanding your vocabulary, through reading. Why don't you go and read a book by someone great like this? Like, just try this book. Try this book. I promise you'll never regret reading this book. Anyways, rule number 11, do not bother children when they are skateboarding. So that's just a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, I think. But it goes further than just bothering children while they're skateboarding. Obviously the image painted here is that kids are, there's, skateboarders and they are all over the place and they're in the way and it's distracting, the noises they make and all that. But look at what they're doing. They are developing skill. They are developing their gross motor skills and possibly their fine motor skills. But if you prevent that from happening, then you're not allowing any growth to take place. And it's obviously not just about skateboarding, it's about anything, any sort of endeavor. Sometimes, like especially for children, just allow them to do it. I've said this before, How many times do you tell a child no? Just because you don't want to have to deal with whatever you think might happen. But what happens if you just allow a child to carry on with whatever it is, That's why there are these kids who are just brilliant at doing something, There's a 2-year-old breakdancer and he's like spinning on his head and things like, whoa, But if a child was trying to do that, you'd stop and you say, hey, don't do that, So it's like, how much value are you allowing for? Obviously the chapter goes much deeper into what all of that might mean, but you get the point of it, is that it's about allowing creative processes to take place, especially in children. It's about not suppressing somebody's freedom, because that's maybe the easiest way and the most unconscious way of cutting somebody off from their freedom. How are you gonna help somebody become an effective agent in the world if you are reducing their potential? Because that's also what it is, right? There's potential in everybody, but if you don't allow that person to explore that potential, how will they reach it? That's probably one of the highest human endeavors, and it's the highest human endeavors simply because of where our attention goes. When the Olympics is on, anyone who's not even interested in sports wants to watch the Olympics, man, because you want to see the best of the best of the best of the best. It's just someone swinging on a pole, but like you're so blown away by this person's ability because this person is the best at that thing. Even if you're not into it. So that's what makes it profound to us as human beings. So it's like, allow kids, allow yourself, allow people to reach their potential. And all you have to do is nothing. Just observe, let it happen. But once you put a stop to it in the beginning, it's like you're informing that child or that person, okay, this is bad, I shouldn't do it again. That's all subconscious. And then they won't do it again. But what if that was their thing? What if that was their natural talent that you've destroyed now? You've put an end to it, you know? So, yeah, it's just, that's destructive, and you want to be productive and constructive. The last one, pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. And I love this one. I love that that's the last chapter, because it's about not taking life too seriously. It's about appreciating the little things, the small moments, you know? Now you can't just always be like steamrolling on your journey, on your goals. Sometimes you have to stop and smell the flowers. Sometimes you have to stop and look at the beauty of the stars, or look at the funny shapes that the clouds make, or just take a breather, just rest a bit. I think that's for that to be a rule is brilliant, because it is going to make sure that you don't burn yourself out, because you're not going to be effective in the world if you burn yourself out. You're not going to be able to stop chaos from coming in if you're burnt out. You're not going to be able to do it. So what happens if you allow that as a rule, to say that once in a while I'm just going to, if I notice a cat on the street, oh, look at this cute cat. Or if I see a flower, it's like, wow, look at that flower. Or, a funny looking cloud, you're like, wow, that cloud looks just like my mother-in-law, something like that. And then you're just able to appreciate. Or song comes, you listen to a song, you're like, yo, I just have to sit and listen to this beautiful song, And that, I think, is replenishing for the soul. You're replenishing your energy, you're rejuvenating yourself, you're recharging. I think that's so important. But obviously the chapter goes into much more depth about it. But anyways, wow, we're getting really far into the episode. There was some stuff that I still wanted to share, but I think I'll just end off with this last thing that I wanted to share with you. And it's something that I've sort of been thinking about as well for quite some time. And that is that don't accept your circumstances. I've been thinking about this, like, there's so many people who are successful who come from a successful background. There are also people who are so successful that come from a really rough background. So why is it that some people from a rough background can be successful, super successful, but others can't? You might say, oh no, that person is talented. No, that person is just willing to work harder than everybody else. So if you are someone who decides, I'm not going to accept my circumstances, it comes with what's added on there is that I am going to do what's necessary to overcome these circumstances. That's what it means not to accept it. Because allowing it to happen, or just deciding, okay, this is happening to me, you are giving up. You're giving up. And what would happen if you were someone that didn't give up? What would happen if you didn't give up on anything, on anyone? What would happen then? Just imagine that. Just imagine that. Don't accept your circumstances. Thank you for watching. And see you next week.